Hello, everybody. It's Tag Tuesday, unless I mess up the calendar on posting this, which I often do. But anyway, I was tagged. I was tagged by Kevin Toll's tags. Kevin Toll tags. Kevin Toll Reads tagged me. Anyway, he's a great channel. I'm sure you all know him. I will link to his answers. I will link to his video, of course, as we always do. This was an original tag created by Gareth, the well-known Gareth of Book Songs and Other Magic. That's a very interesting tag. Will allow me to use my downloaded, ripped-off screen cap of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds teaser for their Muppet episode, which I'm against. I'm doing this Muppet tag, but that does not mean I endorse the Muppets in all situations. Just want to make that clear. Anyway, so Gareth says, so this is a tag that's based around 10 characters that prompts go along with the personality of that character. And this is the Muppets, of course, which I loved when it was on the actual Muppet show. It was fantastic. And saw some of the movies, not all of them, but, it's a great world, the Muppet world, so I'm happy to do it. See how it goes. These are the prompts. There are 10, not including tagging people. Kermit, prompt number 1, Kermit, name a book with a great leader. Okay, I just thought of one before I hit record because I was having the most trouble with this one. And I'm going to go with Horatio Hornblower. I had some other options, but I believe over the course of those books, those C.S. Oh man, I'm going to get the name of... I'm going to mess up. C.S. Forster, right? C.S. Foster. Not E.M. Forster. Okay, I got it right, and then I screwed it up by saying the wrong name. Anyway, the Horatio Hornblower books are great reads. Hornblower begins as a young officer and grows into a great commander by the end of the series. So I don't read a lot of books where the leader ends up being good. My close second I had was Conan, because Conan also grows into a great king, which Conan the Barbarian pretty much seems like a great king, which is very odd considering his career up to that point. Being an outlander and a thief and a mercenary and every kind of selfish, kind of self-absorbed kind of job or whatever, way of making money you could think of. But I think, thinking of Conan, I think he became a good king because by the time he becomes a king in his 40s or whatever, 50s, I think he's learned enough about life to realize that it's just going to be better if he's just and fair and not a despot. It's just going to be easier to treat everybody well and to try and balance the different political factions, and try and keep everybody on the same side so they can focus on building their army and either conquering foreign territories or defending them. So maybe I'm going more with Conan than Hornblower, but they're both good leaders. Number 2, Fozzie Bear. Name a book that makes you laugh. Well, one thing about tags is I do feel bad about always doing the same books, but there's some I just got to say P.G. Wodehouse, or I could say 3 Men in a Boat. I've probably said both those things before, but anything by Wodehouse. I'll go, just to be a little contrarian this time with myself of what I usually say, I will pick a book in the Blandings Castle series, which are really beautiful books. Really beautiful. Not quite as funny all the time as the Jeeves and Wooster, the Jeeves books, but they're fantastic, and they do have lots of humor in them. They have a bit more romance, and the romance is, Jeeves and Wooster are usually trying to get somebody out of getting married, but there are happy endings in the Blandings Castle series. There's one where a character comes to Blandings Castle, a character that I believe P.G. Wodehouse initially did in one short story. The short story is called Uncle Fred Flits By. Uncle Fred flits by, and it is the funniest 5-10 pages of anything I've ever read, I think. So I will, for novel, I will recommend his second appearance. Maybe not his second appearance, because he appears now and then. Uncle Fred in Springtime. Fantastic book. Fantastic book. But read the Blandings Castle books in order. I think you'll enjoy them better that way. Anyway, Animal. Number 3, Animal. Name a book that is unpredictable. Unpredictable. Well, so many... I'm going to obviously vamping here. So many actually bad books are unpredictable because they screw up the formula, and in a certain way sometimes they become more interesting if the writer's got something going on that's unique to themselves that they can put on the page. An unpredictable book, a bad book, if it's, I guess I'm just thinking about Garbagas in general now. A lot of books and also independent books where a lot of people don't keep to the formulas, where they can't figure it out. They can't figure out why their book isn't selling, whatever. They do things, they don't do things the conventional way. And a lot of those books can be very interesting. Why can't I think of one? Let me go to see if I get an idea from my reading spreadsheet. I read every year. Of course I read every year. I write down the books I read every year, mainly so I can research titles, like if I so I don't read the same book again without being prepared for it, or where I don't, or I forget where I left off in a crime series, especially. Let's see. I even forgot the question already. Oh boy. Content. I'm creating content right now. This is content creation. Okay, so I'm reading name a book that is unpredictable. I'm so old, I just don't get surprised that much, because there's so many variations, and that's not a criticism. I think to pivot off of what I was saying before, if a book's too surprising, it might just be badly written. It might just be the characters are inconsistent and they're just doing whatever the writer wants them to do to move the plot along, in as opposed to organically acting with their characters. So unpredictable. I'll go. Not the most unpredictable, but what comes to mind is The Black Cloud by Fred Hoyle, which I've talked about recently on here. It goes in a different direction. I thought it was a straightforward kind of natural disaster story. It has more depth than that and goes into quite a few interesting and thought-provoking areas. The Black Cloud by Fred Hoyle, a science fiction novel from the 60s. Okay, let's get back to the questions. Okay, Statler and Waldorf. I love these guys. There's the ones who are sitting up in the balconies, really kind of brilliant, and very far ahead of its time for the Muppet shows, where these guys would sit up in the balcony of the Muppet Show theater on the Muppet Show and make fun of the sketches, which is really common now, but was really unique at the time. These just two grumpy old men are making fun of everything that's happening on stage. Anyway, that is a prompt for name a book that had to win you over. Well, I give up quite easily, but I will say Pride and Prejudice. See, I'm just talking about books I've read in the last 6 months, because I had a hard time. I couldn't get into it when I was young, and I stuck with it, and I really, really liked it when I read it this year, but it did have to win me over because the characters are so intentionally irritating. I mean, Jane Austen is a genius at doing that, of making characters irritating and yet still compelling enough to read about, and then eventually bringing you over to their side. Mr. Darcy, but also Elizabeth to a bit. You gotta admit, she's kind of a bug. Sometimes it's like the two of them, and that's what's so brilliant about it. You're like, these two are made for each other. They are just both of them too cool for school. Just can't be bothered with these societal norms. Anyway, but it's a brilliant book. it's such a joy to read, and I think I'll probably read it again in the future. And now I've got that joy. And now I understand that Jane Austen joy that people get after reading it this time. Okay, so Ernie, name a character that's innocent or naive or both. Again, I hate that I'm going to do this. This is really a cop-out. But I'm going to have to say Prince Mishkin in The Idiot. And the reason it's a cop-out is because it's the most obvious answer anybody could ever have. It's the textbook character that is innocent and naive and both. It's the whole point of the book. That's why it's called The Idiot. It's called The Idiot. Prince Mishkin is really too good for this world, but just too innocent for this world. And too naive for this world. And it does not end particularly well for him. That's how it goes in Russia. Anyway, number 6, Gonzo the Great. Name a book that defies simple genre definitions. Okay, I can do that. Simple genre definitions. I think most... okay. Uh-oh. Did the thing just freeze? I'm not live. I don't know why I'm asking you. It's not like you're going to be able to tell me. Okay. This is a book, one of my favorite books. I keep saying I'm going to reread it again soon. It is a true classic. It is the singular classic of its genre. There were earlier examples of this type of genre, but this is the one that set it off. This is the one that if anybody's doing a parody of Private Eye, they immediately go to this book. And it is a wonderful book, brilliantly written book called The Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon. Or Falcon, as I would say. Don't know why I said Falcon. Let's see, when you say Maltese, it sort of forces you into saying Falcon, because you're not going to say the Maltese Falcon, but I would say the Falcon, for two reasons. First of all, it's a Private Eye novel. And if you pick it up, you're thinking, and you don't know anything about the genre, you're thinking, okay, here's a Private Eye novel. Pretty good one. Good mystery. It's really a novel about a private eye, though, because not only there's the mystery, there is the core change in the character of Sam Spade, who's not a particularly decent person in the beginning of the book, doesn't like his partner, sleeping with his partner's wife, really doesn't like his partner, thinks he's pathetic. One of the famous early scenes is, almost his first instruction after finding out his partner is dead, is to have the secretary call downstairs, get someone up to paint the door, have him scrape Spade and Archer off the door, and write Sam Spade Investigations on instead. He does not like this guy, does not respect him, sleeps with his wife. That's not the reason he doesn't respect him. Well, it might be the reason he sleeps with his wife. But he goes about... should I spoil the Maltese Falcon? He finds his inner code, I think, in that book. And another thing that's genre breaking about that, I guess that's more common now. At the time, though, kind of a lot of the Private Eye characters were, static. They'd be the same, just like a typical, just the way Mannix would be, or somebody like that, or Columbo. Where they're the same. They reset every story, and there's no sequels. There's no novel sequels to the Maltese Falcon. He did write 3 short stories later about Sam Spade. They're not interesting at all, in my opinion, because this is the character that goes through change. He's not the same person anymore, and that doesn't. He's not just a series character. It's not just the latest adventure of a series character. So I would say that kind of subverts genre expectations, or at least people's cliche genre expectations of the and also it's hilarious. It's funny. The crowd of people that are, with Gutman and Joel Cairo and Bridget O'Shaughnessy, the characters. I haven't read this book in 25 years, and I haven't seen the movie in almost that long, and I still remember all the characters' names, which, that's a sign of good writing. I got to figure out how to get back to the list. And they're funny as well as serious. They're characters. They're very delineated characters. They go on to pursue the Maltese Falcon at the next destination. They're gonna end up chasing each other around the world forever. This is really like an episode in a series episode in their life. Spade has changed. He's a different person at the end of the book, and probably why I almost said Chandler. Probably why Hammett didn't immediately think of writing a bunch of sequels, which he could have. I mean, his books when they came out. They started out in Black Mask magazine, but when the hardcovers came out, he was very rich, very fast. He was very, very successful. And he started writing for Hollywood and stuff. And he wrote The Thin Man, which is another great book, another great private eye novel about an ex-private eye. He wrote a bunch of sequel treatments for that book, so it's not like he was against. You can find them. I believe they're published, but they're like movie treatments for ideas he had to continue the series. So he wasn't adverse to sequels. He wasn't adverse to making money. It wasn't that. I think it's just that he was done with that character. He'd written the Continental Op, which is a different character, private eye character who had many adventures. So he was certainly capable of writing more Sam Spade adventures. Someone had to really, it was only later in his life, and he didn't live very long after he became successful. Anyway, as you could tell from The Thin Man, what his main obsession was, besides work and politics, was the bottle. Like many writers, but I lost my train of thought. Okay. So, but people would always ask him, and there was a Sam Spade radio show. He didn't write any scripts for it, I don't think. It was on for many years though, and people would ask him, why don't you write more Sam Spade stuff? And then he thought, oh yeah, I could make some money doing that. So he did write 3 stories, but they're among his least interesting work, I think. And I think almost everything he wrote was interesting. But those 3 Sam Spade stories, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, if you think they're worth another look. Because when I read them, I thought, like, this is really, seems like they could have been generic, written about any kind of private eye and not about Sam Spade. Okay, so name a book that defies simple genre definition. So that was The Maltese Falcon. Really very odd choice on my part, I must say. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Oh, I remember that character, yeah. Some of these you just know by the name, right? I mean, you know by their image. Oh, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. I think I've got him confused with the tweaker kind of character. Like, what was his name? Like Gorp or something? I don't know. This is not a Muppet video. I'm sure people know. Okay, name a book with a great concept. Oh, there's so many books with great concepts that I've gone after, that I've looked at recently or wanted to read, and sometimes they're disappointing. I have to go back to my book list here. Great concept. Boy, wouldn't this be good if I edited, right? You'd be having such a good time now because I would have skipped all these ums and ahs and anything. Great concepts. Here's one with a bad concept. Okay. Okay, I haven't read this one yet. I'm getting desperate here. No, maybe I'll skip that because this book I want to read soon. This is a pretty great concept. I don't mean the actual. I guess I could look at another year or two. I don't have to be so. But there's a book called The Man in the Man in the Maze, or The Man in the Maze by Robert Silverberg that I read this year. I don't think I was doing videos when I read it, so I might have mentioned it once or twice. But it is based on a Greek play. It is based on Philoctetes by Euripides. Which is a play, it just by coincidence I happen to really like. I always thought it was a really good play that was like a minor play by Euripides, not one of his not one of his big series, but it's a story from the aftermath of the Trojan War, where one of Odysseus's sailors, Philoctetes, they maroon him on an island because I think, if I can remember now, it's been a long time, they think he has a disease or a plague or something. So they leave him there, and then they go on about their way. And then they need him for something, and so they come back. And it's a great character study because in the play, and the book is a fantastic variation on this, they're like, well, you got to help us out. Yeah, we abandoned you here, but we're picking you up now. What is the problem? It's just such a great dramatic situation, because on one hand, he won't be marooned anymore. On the other hand, he has to help people who betrayed him, and he has all this anger to deal with. And Man in the Maze is a science fiction take on that, which with some pretty fantastic peak Silverberg at the top of his creative powers, concepts of different alien races and things. So that's close enough. All right, because we don't want to go on all day here. So I'd say that's the great concept. The great concept being not just the concept that I explained, but the great concept would be to take a science fiction story, or to take a classic Greek play and turn it into a pure science fiction story without cheating, without turning it into fantasy or something. Okay, so that's what you should do if you're a writer and you don't know what to write. Find something very old, out of copyright, and rewrite it as a different genre. That's my writing advice. Okay, and then credit. You don't have to be sneaky about it. You can credit there, and people will be even more impressed because they'll think you're well read, which you probably are. Dr. Teeth. I don't remember this character either. Name a character that lights up the scene and makes you smile. Okay. There's a character I've always liked, and she's in the movie too, and it's a character that I really thought could have been spun off into, this is really hoity-toity though, I'm going to have to look her up. There's a character in Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. A lady who is a modern woman. Portrait of a Lady takes place in the 1880s. Unlike most of the people who are kind of idle rich, who kind of like the main love interest of the female character, the main male love interest that she marries, who's a bug, his big occupation in life is like painting, doing illustrations of flower stems and things. Which is nice, but these are wealthy people who don't really do anything with their lives. But there's one character who's a friend of the heroine, so a friend of Isabel Archer, and she's a journalist, and she's kind of a. Oh, she's not going to be listed in here. She kind of moves the plot along, and she has good sense, and she would have made a great. I would read a whole book about her, or watch a whole adaptation about her character. You know what? I can't remember her name. Pansy? No, Pansy is the daughter. I guess she's not even an important enough character to make the Wikipedia synopsis, and I don't want to go for any deeper thing, but I know how to find it up, because I remember the movie too. She was in the Jane Campion version of the movie, played by somebody whose name I will recognize when I see it. She was played by Mary Louise Parker, although that was kind of a different take on the character, but pretty good. So who did Mary Louise Parker play in this? Oh, it's not going to show me. Oh my God, I gotta go to. I'm gonna have to go to IMDb to find the name of this character in this Henry James novel. This is the best I can do for. Oh, here we go. Because Henrietta Stackpool. Yes, I love that character. She's really, because most of the people in Portrait of a Lady, which is a fantastic novel, if you want to read a well-written, deep, complex 1880s novel. Was it 1880s? Or did he write it later? It's probably set in the 1880s. And you'll really feel like you accomplished something after you read that book. It's very intricate, and it's true tragedy. Characters are very involving characters. It's the kind of stuff that after reading this and then go back to Pride and Prejudice, you're like, dude, Pride and Prejudice is so simple by comparison. This is a complex novel. It's probably why it's not that popular. It's pretty long too. So to do 1881 novel. Okay, so Henrietta Stackpool. As soon as I saw the name again, I remembered that's a good pick. I like that character a lot. She's the kind of character in a lot of serious dour books. There'll be one or two characters just to keep you from going insane by how miserable and self-involved everybody is. She's like a normal woman in a book of people who are like so self-absorbed because they're too rich and they got rich people problems, which are serious problems. But anyway, okay, so she's a great relief in that. Another character I would say, I would go Uncle Fred again in Uncle Fred in Springtime, or anytime he shows up in a book of P.G. Wodehouse, he lights up the room. And Bobby Wickham was a female. It's a she, Bobby. Bobby for Roberta Wickham is a very funny character that shows up in she has a story of her own, I believe, and she shows up in a couple Jeeves and Wooster stories. But she's a self-actualized, can-do kind of person. She's not helpless like a lot of the other characters who are endearing in their own way. But anyway, name a character that lights up scene makes. Then 9, Rowlf the Dog. Rowlf the Dog. Name a character that's laid back and copes with the chaos around them. Well, this is another Jeeves and Wooster, P.G. Wodehouse heavy YouTube tag from me, because I have to say Jeeves the butler, who every time his idiot master, his idiot employer, Bertie Wooster, young Bertie, comes in, screws things up horribly, or usually tries to fix things himself without involving Jeeves because he thinks he can do it. Everything falls apart. Jeeves has to come in very calmly, very much like everything you'd expect from a cliche English butler, handles everything, is always 4 steps ahead of everybody, very calm. Great character. One of the best characters ever written. Okay, number 10, The Muppets. Name a book with a great found family. Okay, I don't read these kind of books. I don't read found family books. That's not to be a smart ass, but it's because I don't read that many books. Okay, when the closest I would probably come would be a team book where people gather a team around them, but it's really more work focused or more action focused, because those are the kind of books I read. I can't even think of one because I read so many older books, and the fashion through most of the time has been not the found of great book, of serious books, of collections, was either men at work, men at labor of some kind, and that's secondary. The big one was family, not found family, but family. You read those old books, like everybody is somebody. It's just not the way we live now, but everybody is somebody's cousin. Even your boyfriend is your cousin, and or your girlfriend is your cousin, or your rival for the control of the state is your cousin. And like in The Idiot and in Pride and Prejudice, everybody's somebody's cousin. I'm going to see my cousins, who they don't know and who they have conflicts with or romances with. And so it's a newer idea, the found family. I guess I had one on my mind a second ago. I can't think of it though. First thing that came to my mind would be like Doc Savage and his guys, his crew. That's not really found family though, because they come together. Same thing with military books. Would you say that Aubrey and Maturin are a found family because they're friends and they work together and travel together? No, because it's always well, first of all, there's only two of them, and there's not much. There's other characters come in, but they have Aubrey and Maturin have a special close friendship that is not part of a gang. I can't think of one. I bet as soon as I watch some of these others, I'm going to think of some great found families. Like I wouldn't say Star Trek is a found family. Maybe on the new series Discovery, because they spend more time crying with each other and holding each other than exploring the galaxy. But there's great ensembles in fiction, but I always think they're usually gathered for some purpose, like a job or anyway. All right, so that's a little bit of anticlimactic in there. I think people who read more contemporary books than me will have much better handle on how to handle that question. And then tag people. Who am I going to tag? Kevin Toll tagged a lot of good people. Okay, well, I'll put a couple. I won't say their names because I usually end up tagging people that have already been tagged. Especially this one's been around a couple weeks, so I think I was just one of the last untagged people that Kevin was able to dig up. So if you like the Muppets, if you like books, consider yourself tagged. If you don't like books, I have no idea why you would be listening to this. But anyway, and if you don't like Muppets, then shame on you. Okay, we'll talk later. As soon as I get back to the camera page, I will stop this video. I'm Pete. Please like, please subscribe, please join my Patreon. I don't have a Patreon. Follow my Substack. I don't have a Substack. But in case, in years later, perhaps 15 years from now, if you're happy to see this, follow my Substack because maybe I'll get it going by then.